Hi there, this is Andrew with Design Point, here today to share with you some helpful tips on how to use surfacing to get to some of your complex solid modeling goals. Customer called in. We work with this customer quite a bit, and they had an interesting challenge. They wanted to smoothly transition from this face to this face, but what they were originally starting with was some material in the way. So they called us. We worked with them with a customer success meeting where we meet one-on-one, engineers talking to engineers, and we really wanted to help figure out the best solution to their problem, teach them how to do it so that they could go and be more successful with the tools that they've purchased. So we got a copy of this, or at least a small part of this model, and wanted to use it today to share with you the same tips that we learned working with the customer. So let's dive in. First of all, as you can see, there's some new edge lines here, and we need to create those since this is a flat surface. So we need to split the surface. If you haven't worked with 3D sketches in a while, don't fret. There's actually an easier way to work with them than maybe what you're originally used to. One thing that you're able to do is just do a spline on a surface. That's super helpful because it's going to start a 3D sketch for you, and then it's going to try and track with the surface instead of it being freehand. So I'll select this, and then I'll select the vertice here, and you can see how the line is going to track on the surface, and I'll connect it to this vertex there. We've got a line, and now I'm going to select this line and this edge, and I'm going to be able to add a tangency constraint. And do that for both sides of this right here. So what we're looking at right now is a spline on a surface. We're actually going to put one more up here on the same place so that we have a thin band of material, just like how the rest of the surfaces worked. And then we're going to use that to cut away some surfaces. So we're going to do that in the next session. So we have two splines right here that are made on the surfaces. Now that we have those, we're going to use those splines to split the surfaces. So I select the spline, and then I'm going to need to select the faces that I want to split from that line. So you can see how we have a new edge line. We'll do that for both the top and the bottom so that we're splitting everything here. And then we're going to do the next step where now that we have the faces kind of split off the correct way, we're going to just delete them from the model. So when we do delete face on a solid object, remember that turns it into a surface. That's going to be to our benefit later because we're going to knit everything back together and make one solid object from it. But remember that you're going to want to turn it from delete and patch, delete and fill, just delete. So we're going to select the faces, and don't forget about these two kind of corners that are hidden in the back there. So when I delete those, I'm going to have an open gap, and you're going to see that you now have turned everything into a surface body. So we have a hole. This is the exciting part. We're almost finished. We're going to use a boundary surface to complete this and knit it all back together in the next step. Final steps of the process. So we've got our surface body with a hole in it. We need to patch that hole up. We're going to use a boundary surface. Very similar to a lofted surface. We need to zoom in, get that edge line right there. The bottom part's a little bit trickier. I'm going to need to use a selection manager. That's going to allow me to select multiple segments of a line and then be able to add those as an open group. Now when you first look at this, something's gone wrong. I can manually grab a hold of those connectors and try and move them to the right location. Or I could right click on them and say, hey, flip the connectors. You can see how the surface is almost ready. I'm actually just from habit, I'm going to add the lines on the sides as guide curves, even though it looks pretty similar to the way it was already, kind of calculating in the system. Then the real test is whether or not I can knit these two together and create a solid from them. And they're already going from two solids or two surface bodies to one solid body directly, and we're all finished. That's how you're going to be able to use surfacing to create complex geometry. Sometimes you're going to need to split the surfaces, splines on the surface, delete faces that you don't want, smooth it over with a boundary loft, and then you're going to have to knit it all back together to make your solid. So I thought you might enjoy this quick tip to help you guys with your complex geometries. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.